I've always thought I was pretty bad at getting things done efficiently since I was a kid. It's a common belief that the middle child among 3 siblings tends to be the most adept, but I, as the second son, was the least efficient of all my siblings and always treated as the slow one. I wish I could have been more adroit and approachable like my elder brother and younger brother, but communication has never been my strong suit, and it made life challenging for me in high school, college, and even in the working world. Though I try my best, I get scolded daily by my boss, John, and can't seem to connect with my colleagues or subordinates. But as long as I don't lose hope, things might change someday. Holding on to that hope, all I could do was to live my life earnestly. Yet, contrary to my hopes, my days seemed to be heading in a worse direction. One day, when I arrived at work, I saw a notice posted about staff transfers, and to my surprise, my name was listed. I hadn't requested a transfer, nor had I heard any discussion about the possibility. Moreover, the new location was a remote rural town, hours away by plane, with which I had no connection. I couldn't just accept it, so I went to ask John for an explanation. What I heard next was shocking. Last month, there was a major mistake in my department. I wasn't involved in that project, so I had nothing to do with it. Or so I thought, but it seems the blame was being placed on me. The person who actually started the mistake was John, so I didn't have the courage to confront him directly. And since I had no colleagues who trusted me enough to believe in me, I reluctantly accepted the transfer. Well, I didn't have a strong reason to stay in that place anyway. So, I moved to a town I had never been to before. The buildings were significantly smaller than in the city where I had worked, and my job mostly consisted of menial tasks. My salary was reduced, and it became hard to feel hopeful about the future. But then, I met someone. You again, with that gloomy face. Is that any way to enjoy life? While working at my desk, I would often hear this loud voice from behind. Turning around, I would see the cleaning lady, who came in every day, Mary. She talked to me like this every day. Honestly, I had never met anyone who spoke as loudly as she did in my entire life. Then I said, "Well, it's not fun." "What? Can't hear you. You need to speak up if you want people to understand how you feel." I had never been interrupted like this either. Have you always been like this your whole life? Nor had I met someone who was so blunt. So, to me, Mary was truly an extraordinary and, well, quite an eccentric person. Initially, I was quite uncomfortable around her. But after working there for some time, I realized that Mary was the same with everyone, speaking in this manner. And everyone seemed to enjoy talking with her, always smiling. It was clear that she was well liked by everyone. Eventually, I found myself wondering, if I had communication skills like Mary's, would my life have been different? "Mary, I went on a trip this weekend and bought some souvenirs. Feel free to have some." A female colleague said this to Mary when she came in to clean. "Oh, really? That's so kind of you." Mary opened a box of sweets at an astonishing speed and popped one into her mouth. Then suddenly, "Hey you, come here." Mary unexpectedly gestured for me to come over. As I stood there, bewildered, she urged me, "Come on, hurry up." So I reluctantly walked over to where Mary and the others were. She said to me, "She brought these. They're really delicious. You should have some too, here." But I didn't know what to do, as I wasn't close to any colleagues, let alone this one. I felt uneasy because these sweets were bought for Mary, and I wasn't sure if I should accept them. No, I really feel bad about it. When I responded, Mary, in her loud voice, said, "What's there to feel bad about? Sharing good things makes everyone happy, right, right." She looked to the female colleague for agreement. The colleague smiled warmly and said, "Of course, please feel free to have some." "Ah, thank you," then. With a somewhat light-hearted feeling, I ate the sweet. It was delicious. Actually, I don't really remember being smiled at by a colleague and having a chat while receiving a souvenir. I never imagined such a day would come. It felt like a dream. It's really delicious, thank you so much. I felt an overwhelming sense of joy from deep within. From then on, I occasionally chatted with that colleague, and thanks to Mary's communication skills, I started talking more with other colleagues too. After half a year, I was able to have non-work-related conversations even without Mary's help. Ethan, we're planning a barbecue this weekend, are you free? When I was asked that, I worried if the question was really meant for me. But it was definitely directed at me. I don't have any plans. I'm glad. I'll send you the details of the place and time later. Having such a normal conversation was a big change for me. This would have been absolutely unthinkable back when I was working in the city. Maybe it's not about the place. If Mary hadn't been here in this rural town, my environment probably wouldn't have changed. That's what I believe. So, I found myself immensely grateful to Mary, more than I could ever express. Did you have a barbecue this weekend? The following Monday, Mary asked me this. Yes, it was amazing. Being outside in nature, everything tastes so good. I wish you could have joined us, I said, and Mary laughed heartily. Me, an old lady, there, I'd just be in the way. If you guys had fun, that's all that matters to me. I'm sure no one would have thought she was in the way. Thinking this, I felt that her response was so typical of Mary, and it warmed my heart. Are you heading out already? Mary asked me this as I stood in the company lobby with my bag during the day. Yes, I need to use up my paid leave, so I'm taking a half day off today. When I replied, how about joining me for lunch now? Mary suggested. So, we stopped by a nearby convenience store, grabbed some simple sandwiches, and went to the park next to the office. Are you on break, Mary? Yes, I am. We sat by the river flowing through the park, chatting about trivial things. During our conversation, Mary said, your face has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? I was a bit surprised. Of course, I hadn't had any cosmetic surgery, and I hadn't gained or lost any weight. I couldn't think of any reason why my face would have changed. Noticing my puzzled look, Mary laughed and said, it's not your face itself, silly. It's about your expression. Oh, I see. Even so, I never really noticed my own expressions, so it was still something I couldn't understand. But after listening to what Mary continued to say, I started to understand. When you first came here, your eyes lacked light. They were so dark, it seemed like you couldn't even see what was right in front of you. I hadn't been conscious of my expressions at all. But when she said that, I realized it was true. Indeed, there was everyday life right in front of me, and I was living here as myself, but it felt like I wasn't seeing any of it. I was just moving my feet, not seeing anything. That's how it felt. But all that changed, undoubtedly, after I met Mary. It's all thanks to you, Mary. I was always clumsy and introverted, shy around people, and couldn't bond with my colleagues. But you created the opportunity for me to get along with everyone. I truly appreciate it. Yes, I had been meaning to thank Mary someday. But her response was unexpected. That's not it, Ethan. I didn't do anything. It's all something you brought about. You were able to change because you wanted to change. If you're going to thank someone, thank yourself, not me. Mary, I might have always wanted to change deep down. But somewhere inside, I had resigned myself to the belief that I could never change. Indeed, it was Mary who made me realize this. Thank you. There you go, thanking again. Mary said this and laughed heartily, as she always did. I really am glad I came here. I can truly feel that now. Then, one day, about a year had passed since I was transferred to this rural town. Out of the blue, Mr. Wilson, the president, decided to come for an inspection, even though there had been no prior communication. Everyone worked seriously as usual, But the tension was undeniable with Mr. Wilson's visit. Everyone was restless from the morning of that day. Of course, I was too. And when the appointed time came and Mr. Wilson entered the office, I was a bit shocked. Next to Mr. Wilson was John, from my old apartment, the one who had blamed me for his mistake. From the atmosphere, it was clear he had been promoted after that incident. Of course, I understand that there must be reasons for a promotion, and that he had the necessary abilities, but it still felt hard to accept. I was definitely feeling bitter. Mr. Wilson and his group toured the office for a while, had discussions among the higher-ups, and I, just a regular employee, watched from a distance. Well, I didn't want to get involved, and to be honest, I didn't want to remember those times. While I was focusing on my work at my desk, thinking this, I sensed someone behind me. When I turned around, there was John. "Hey, long time no see." He greeted me with a face that showed no malice. "It's been a while," I thought to myself, how he could talk to me so nonchalantly. But I didn't have the courage to retort. "I really am grateful for having the opportunity to come here, so there's nothing more to say about it now. I just want to forget it all." That was my honest wish. Yet, "You've been bravely working hard even after being transferred to this rundown branch. How admirable," he said. He said such things. Although it was a brief remark, it was packed with all sorts of sarcasm and spite. It was a humiliating statement, to the point where I couldn't even muster a forced smile. And yet, standing in front of John, I felt pathetic for not being able to respond. "Come on, say something back to him." That's what I was chanting inside my head when, "What, you have such a bad personality." That familiar voice came from behind. When John and I turned around in surprise, there was Mary. Huh. John didn't like her words and reacted badly. But Mary, unfazed as always, said, "You only have that to say to an employee who's working hard even in the countryside. I don't care how high and mighty you are. It's impressive you got promoted with that attitude." I was astounded. Of course, I was incredibly happy that Mary was standing up for me. But in my mind, a superior was someone who should never be opposed, a firmly established belief. So, it was shocking to me that someone could speak up so clearly within seconds of meeting. "Are you trying to get yourself fired, lady?" John tried to threaten her, it seemed. "I don't mind. Do you even have that authority?" Her attitude didn't change at all. The sudden confrontation silenced the office, and Mr. Wilson, who had been a bit distant, sensed the atmosphere and came back. Seeing him, John suddenly changed his tone. "Mr. Wilson, this branch is not functioning properly. They show a bad attitude towards me and lack motivation in their work. To say such things not only about me but about unrelated employees as well. No, that's not true. Everyone here is really serious about their work." The only thing that came out of my mouth was such a pathetic response. If only I could respond clearly like Mary. Otherwise, he might fabricate lies like before and cause trouble for everyone in this company. Even thinking this, I felt my body trembling pathetically. "Look, unproductive and creating trouble whenever it suits him. That's why you were transferred, and you haven't changed at all," John said. I never tried to create trouble. How much I hated not being able to express my feelings, and how I've lived with that. Yet, even now, I couldn't find the words to respond properly. Then, "Are you blind or what?" When I heard Mary's assertive voice, to my surprise, she was standing right in front of Mr. Wilson. She confronted him, saying something like this. She said, "Ignoring such a sincere young man, tolerating and even promoting someone who bullies subordinates, don't you have any judgment? It's disgusting to watch. Can't you work more pleasantly?" The office fell silent. Mr. Wilson was taken aback by Mary's forceful words. And John seemed to have no comeback. Mary's forceful words were incredibly refreshing and felt good to hear. But more than that, the fact that someone was willing to go this far for me was overwhelmingly heartwarming. In the quiet office, a taxi arrived, and in the awkward silence, Mr. Wilson and his group left. "I'm sorry if I caused any trouble for everyone because of me," I apologized. When I did, all my colleagues laughed and said, "The real nuisance was that arrogant John. Honestly, he made us all angry. We should be thanking Ethan and Mary instead." They even complimented me. I felt truly fortunate to have come to such a warm workplace. And then I said, "Mary, I really can't thank you enough." That was all I could do for Mary. But as usual, she brushed it off, saying, "I just couldn't stand it, so I stepped in. You don't need to thank me." After that incident, our branch didn't get shut down, nor did anyone get fired. On the other hand, it seemed John had a hard time after returning. I heard through the grapevine that Mr. Wilson was furious for being made to look foolish and ordered an internal investigation into John's department. Numerous complaints of power harassment surfaced, and apparently, John got fired. When Mary heard about it, she laughed heartily as usual. Serves him right. You see, the universe is always watching. It's what they call poetic justice. Since then, I've been living my usual life in this rural town. It's the complete opposite of my life in the city, but it seems to suit me. I find immense joy in living this everyday life. Since Mary gets mad if I try to thank her, lately I've been showing my gratitude for actions, like buying her gifts or inviting her to lunch. But I always think to myself, "Mary, thank you for teaching me the importance of finding happiness in the unchanging days. Truly, thank you."